Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Hey Bub Outdoors. My name's Adam, and I have my brother Matt once again. And today we have John Dosch with us from Pass It On Wilderness Skills. Really excited to dive into today's topic. As you might or might not know, we try to stay seasonal here at Hey Bub Outdoors, and whether you know it or not, it's getting ready to be Sugarin season. In fact, there's already been some Sugarin action in mid-January. Now things have slowed down because of the cold weather, but Sugarin season is right around the corner, and we have a local expert, if you will, in John Dosch. John joins us from Southern Indiana, where he is over an organization called Pass It On Wilderness Skills. John, we talked a little bit before we started. I've gotten to know you because I actually served as your pastor there for a little while. You've been a great friend, a mentor to me in wilderness. I know what a poplar tree is because of you. At 25 years old, I learned as one who had a climber on my back. You said, just find a straight poplar down there in the bottom. And I thought, I have no idea what that means. And you showed me, so thank you. But Pass It On Wilderness Skills, I don't know of many people who invest in youth and outdoors like you do. You practice what you preach, and your name is perfect because you mentor kids and you have this incredible knowledge that you share, a holistic woodsmanship is what I would consider it. So thanks for joining us, man. I really appreciate it. Real fast, just to get things started, what's your favorite class to teach at Pass It On Wilderness Skills?
Well, first of all, I'll say hello, Matt. Hello, Adam. Glad to be invited to share on your ministry here. And my favorite class, which is a tough one, would probably have to be basic fire starting, because that's the one that gets the kids to light up. Once they get that first fire, their eyes light up and they are ready and fired up to go. So
hopefully not literally, right?
Yeah, it's fun watching the kids, the kids learn and then want more and more and more. So I had to say fire starter because all kids are just interested in getting fires going.
How could you not be?
Exactly.
I still love it.
Yeah, there you go.
There's something about fire that stirs the soul. Hey, we are here to talk about Sugarin. And a few years back, John, on your Pass It On Wilderness Skills Facebook page, which there's going to be a link down below in the description of this video. So all of you who are watching this, check out John's stuff. He has so many helpful hints, from trapping to hunting to fishing to fire starting. He covers so many different topics that are just really, really interesting. And so be sure to check out that information below. But we're here to talk about Sugarin, and we're gonna watch a video that you released a few years back. And John, we're just gonna go through that. I think it's a 5-minute video, and we're gonna ask you some questions. But first, we'll go ahead and pull that up. I'm gonna share the screen. Yeah. There's John. And
that was a few pounds lighter.
You're a few pounds lighter?
No, then I was.
Oh, okay. Well, to get things going here, John, of course, you're up against the maple tree. I think before we even hit the video, before we hit start, could you tell us what species of maples, are tappable? I mean, can we tap any kind? I know there's sugar maple, but what kind of trees can we tap?
Well, all maples are tappable to make to get sap from to make syrup. Some of them have a higher sugar content than others, so it would take less sap to make the same amount of syrup than it would, say, a silver maple, which has a lower sugar content, and it would take more sap from that to make the same amount of syrup that it would, any other tree.
Okay. All right, that makes sense. So around in the Ohio Valley, anyways, Matt is out east, and the tree species would be the same there. We have red maple, we have silver maple, sugar maple. What are you standing beside here, John?
What's that?
What tree are you standing beside here? What species?
That one that's a silver maple, and that's what I have mostly in my woods. Silver maple. There are some hard maple and black maple. I don't have any of the sugaring maple, so I do the best I can with what I got. But I'd say 95% of my trees are of the silver maple.
Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and we'll start. Any size, by the way, before we start, any size that you particularly look for? What's the minimum size on a tree to tap?
Well, the minimum size for me to tap is 10 inches in diameter. I don't like to tap anything under 10 inches because the tree's in its infancy at that point. So we'll kind of let them get a little size to them. And the smaller trees that are, say, 10 to 20 inches in diameter, I only use one tap on that. And then I get above 24 inches in diameter, you can start adding a couple, like an extra tap. Some of the bigger maples that I've got out here that, are 50 or 75 years old, I can put 3 or 4 taps in them and not bother the tree at all.
Okay. All right. Good stuff. We'll go ahead and start it.
So right now we got another tree here. You notice I got a big maple. Once again, I got where the roots come out. I want to come up, and you can kind of see where the trunk is swelled here. You can see a little divot right here, a little divot over here. It's kind of swelled right in this area. And that's the area that I want to tap. These, if you can think about it, the roots of a tree are like the veins in our body. They're what transfer the water. They pick the water up from the soil and they transfer it all the way up to the top of the tree. Just like our veins pick up the blood from our heart, our veins and arteries pick up the blood from our heart and pump it out to the extremities of our body. That's what we're doing here. So, and whenever you go to the hospital, you get a blood test or something like that, they're always looking for a vein. That's what we're looking for, the tree's vein. And that's where you find the swelled up part right above the major roots. We come up here, we're going to tap, like I said, about 18, 20 inches up. We take an upward angle so that the angle's facing down, and that all that does is allow the sap to flow a little easier. So we come in here, run our bit in 1.5 inches. And I continue to run it in the same direction as I'm pulling it out. And what that does, once again, is it pulls the sawdust out of the tree, which is a very important item to remember. It cleans the hole out. That way it ain't clogging up your spile, your tree tap. And then I got a little stick here that I just run in there and make sure I dig everything out. So, I got the hose reel. Once again, I got the tap part that goes in the tree. I got the hose that's curved and it's curving toward the tree. That gives my jug, my collection jug, a little stability. So I'll drive the spile in here. Drive it in.
So we'll stop it right there. Matt, do you have any questions about what tapping does to the tree?
Yeah. So, I mean, you just referred to them in to the roots as basically the veins of the tree there. So obviously there's some significance in how it's pulling nutrients, like you said, out of the ground and whatnot. So you kind of alluded to this earlier as far as not tapping a tree less than 10 inches in diameter, but how does this long-term affect the tree if you're doing it every year? Do you have to choose a different spot every time? What does that look like?
Well, whenever you pull the spile out at the end of the season, it'll leave a hole in there about 1.5 inches deep. And that tree is already begun to heal that hole and cover it over. Just the same way as our body does if we get a cut or a scratch. Mm-hmm. And it produces a scar, if you will, in the wood. And, it covers it over, it heals it up so that insects can't get in there. You do not want to tap in a line above or below the tap that you had the year before. Yeah, because if you do that, it creates a line of scars and scar tissue, and that can, have an adverse effect on the tree.
So left or right, you would be good, just not above and below.
Right. The basic distance between last year's tap and this year's hole, and then the year after that is 6 inches. So you want to space your hose, your tapping hose out about 6 inches. And you don't want to keep them in a line, so you'll kind of alternate them like a zigzag pattern.
Oh, okay. Interesting. All righty.
That's awesome. And I love this, John. I love how it immediately starts to flow. We'll go ahead and do it again.
That's so cool.
Spiles have marks on them, and those are little swelled areas or sealing marks, like sealing bands. And as you drive them in, they're a little oversized, and they seal the hole off where you don't have leakage coming around your tubing. There we go. As you can see, it didn't take long for it to start dripping. We punch it into we take our gallon jug, and I take a 3/8 drill bit. I drill a hole through the center of the I like using screw-on caps. That way they don't accidentally come off. You get them screwed on, they're on tight. I drill a 3/8 hole through the cap. I got 3/8 hose, and it takes a little bit of pressure to push it in, but when it's in, it's secure. It ain't gonna, a little breeze ain't gonna come by and blow your jug off of the hose and roll it all through the woods, and you lose all your hard work right there. But that's it. That's what we got. I mean, that's how easy tapping a sugar maple is.
So, I mean, just a lot of great advice there as far as how the hose should be bending. John, I see here you have, you're using gallon jugs. I think purified water jugs is what you told me. I know now maybe you're using 5-gallon buckets. Say it's optimum day for Sugarin. The sun's out, it's 60 degrees, it's late February. How long would it take to fill like this gallon jug, or how long would it take to fill like a 5-gallon bucket off this tap in this particular tree on average, would you say?
On a good day, and a good day is having a night that's below freezing and the daytime temperature reaching near 50 with sunlight. And the sunlight and the temperatures at near 50 cause the tree to start really pumping that water up through the veins of the tree. And when you get optimum conditions like that, I can get a 5-gallon bucket in a day's time.
Wow.
Normally it takes about a day and a half to 2 days on an average flow day.
Wow.
All right.
That's impressive.
That's
so when
cool.
when you've got a 1-gallon jug here, are you going multiple times a day if conditions are right and just swapping it out, or?
Yes.
Okay.
I give up on the 1-gallon jugs because it was a lot of work to, and I was losing a lot.
Okay.
Every year is it's a learning for me. Every year I learn something new, the better way to do it, to be a little more efficient with everything that I'm doing. And, I started out with the gallon jugs basically because of the economy of it. They didn't cost me much of anything. And, but I was losing a lot because I couldn't get out and check them often enough on good flow days. So I switched to the 5-gallon buckets, and I don't have to check them as often. And, I gather up quite a bit in a 5-gallon bucket.
So you get a 5-gallon bucket with a lid on it, and you're still drilling that 3/8 inch hole in the top and just basically doing the same thing. But
I still use the same spile and the same hose. I do drill a small, like a 7/32 hole in the other side as a vent hole and snap the lid on tight. Okay. And that allows, as the bucket fills up, it allows the air to escape, and it doesn't create a pressure in there.
Sure.
So anything I can do to increase the flow, besides adding a pump to the system, is the best way to go.
Yeah. Now we'll probably get into a little bit more of the details of what comes after that, but just to kind of get a ballpark, when you're collecting one of those 5-gallon buckets, how much, if you got, say, the silver maple, for example, you said it's different per species of maple tree, but how much syrup are you able to basically boil down out of that sap?
Well, the ratio on most maples is 40-1. So it'll take 40 gallons of sap to make 1 gallon of syrup.
Okay.
The sugaring maple, I think, it's got a little higher sugar content, and I believe you can get about 35-1 on it.
Interesting. All righty. That's cool.
John, what would you say is kind of you hinted at that optimum day, but like when would you say the sugaring season kind of starts and ends? Is it all based on weather? Does it have to do with the amount of sunlight? Is there a season or a time frame that you typically say it falls in between these dates?
Typically, it's in the second week of February, maybe the third week of February, on into maybe middle of March, latter part of March. The last couple of years, we have had very mild winters. And the serping season has started actually in January, and it did this year. It started in January. We had that warm spell out there, and I was able to gather a little over 100 gallons of sap in just a few days that it was warming up.
Wow, that's cool. As far as like a time commitment goes, obviously we know once you get it tapped, and you've got it collecting, there's not a whole lot of work to be done at the tree. But how about making the syrup itself? So you're taking it and just cooking it down. How long does that take? What's that process look like?
Well, it takes a lot of time. Seems like everything I get involved in just sucks the time out of me. I usually save the boiling down for the weekends. I'll start Friday after work. I'll get out there, get my fires built up, get the sap going. And I'm usually all weekend, about Sunday afternoon, late Sunday afternoon, somewhere around 4 or 5 o'clock, I finally finish up. And I usually, I won't start boiling until I have at least 200 gallons of sap to boil.
Wow.
Okay.
So it's
for somebody just getting ready to start, what would you say is like the best amount to kind of start at? Like 50 gallons, give it a shot. I mean, what would you say is a beginner starting point?
Well, you take 5 gallons. If I had 5 gallons of sap, go ahead and boil that down. It won't take you that long to do it. You could probably do that in in a couple hours maybe. And want to do it outside. I do want to stress that you want to boil it outside, because as that's evaporating, the sugar dissolves with the steam and it rises, and everything in the house will get sticky. I'm that experience. My first year doing it, it took a little cleanup time. My wife was real thrilled with me.
I heard it's rough on wallpaper too.
Yes, it sure is. So do it outside. One of them turkey burners work great with a stainless steel pan, and 5 gallons you can boil down in a couple hours, and that ought to give you about 12 ounces of finished syrup.
Okay. How do you know when you're just looking at it? How do you know it's boiled down enough?
Well, the way I started out, I've done some reading. My favorite book was Carla Emery's Encyclopedia of Country Living. It has a real nice section in there on sugar, and that's the information I use to get started. But as it gets closer, you'll notice that it'll start foaming up, and you can't stir it down. And once you get it where it's foaming, and you can't stir it down, I'll spoon it out and I'll watch it and see if it starts sheeting, like candy does.
Yeah.
Once it starts sheeting, then you cut the heat down and take it in and filter it out. Actually, if you want to use a thermometer, it's 17 degrees above the boiling temperature of water at your altitude.
Interesting.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of science to it. Or and you can just go out there and just hillbilly it and get the same thing, or you can make it as difficult as you want.
Yeah, I figure if you go over, it's probably sugar? Is that what it turns into?
Yes, and I've done that. In fact, I think the very first batch I did, I burnt. It just went, because from the point of being syrup to the point of being runt is basically a blink of the eye. You've got to watch over it, and because it'll go from syrup to sugar to a black burnt on mess in a pan in a hurry. So as it's boiling down and it's getting, you're reducing the amount, you want to keep a closer eye on it.
Yeah.
All right, man. And there's go ahead, Matt.
No, I was just going to say, do you have a favorite? So obviously you're doing a lot of silver maples, but do you think one tastes significantly better than another? Or are they all pretty similar?
They're pretty similar. I'm kind of glad you asked that question, because I've had some people that have got my syrup and said that they have gotten some homemade syrup elsewhere and it have a real woodsy or smoky flavor to it, and they preferred mine. It had a real true maple flavor. And I think the key to that is that I put a lot of time in, my bottle says it's a John's Amazing Maple Syrup, and it's made with 100% maple sap, a lot of labor and a little love. So the love comes from putting the extra effort into it to make a better product. The labor comes from cutting down nothing but maple trees and splitting that. That's all I boil my maple syrup with is maple trees. And I figure if I want to have a true maple flavor, I'm not going to impart the flavor of the wood say, a birch or hickory or walnut or something like that. And if you barbecue, that the different woods give the meat a different flavor. Yeah. Hangs true with the syrup. If you use a different wood, you're going to impart different flavors upon that syrup. So I try to stick with I definitely do stick with maple wood to boil my syrup.
Man, that's so
I wouldn't
good.
have thought of that. I wouldn't have thought of that at all. But it makes sense if it's spending that much time cooking down, it's bound to take in some of that flavor of the wood. So.
Yep. And I'm in pretty good with a couple of the guys with the electric department here in town, and they're always cutting down maple trees that are interfering with the power lines, and they are more than happy to give me all I want.
That's a good idea.
Well, I have no shortage.
Reach out to your city folks. Reach out to local, tree services. I know maple and silver maple particularly. It's just bountiful. It's everywhere. There's so many hollow maple trees that are cut down every day. And so, no shortage of that. Well, John, man, we really appreciate you coming on and talking. And again, this is John Dosch from Pass It On Wilderness Skills. You can check him out on Facebook. He has all kinds of great videos and know-hows. John, we appreciate you. We appreciate, just in hearing you talk, you are a learner. We love it that you continue to learn and you just pass on what you're learning to other people. It's made a difference in mine, and I know it'll make a difference in our listeners. And thank you for all you do, man. Thanks for investing in the youth in your community, and just keep going for it. Check it out, John Dosch at Pass It On Wilderness Skills. So I think
that's very much, guys.
Yeah. Thanks, John. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate you having you. That's all for today. Catch us next week. We're going to begin talking about shed hunting. That season's just around the corner. So thanks for joining us today on Hey Bub Outdoors.